Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and this is Voice of the Global South. All right then, let's get started on the show this week. Thailand's army demolishes a Hindu statue and damages Hindu temples in Cambodia, drawing parallels with the destruction of the Buddhas of Bamiyan by the Taliban. Algeria passes a bill seeking reparations from France for its colonial past. Should India follow suit and ask Britain to pay for its colonial loot? And a deep dive into the optics and outcomes of the Netanyahu-Trump talks. All that and much, much more coming up on Voice of the Global South. The Bamia Valley in Afghanistan is nestled in the heart of the Hindu Kush mountain range. Here, two statues of Lord Buddha were carved into cliffs in the 6th century, representing the Buddha in standing form. But they no longer stand today. Do you know why? Because the Taliban destroyed them in 2001. The Taliban used anti-aircraft guns, artillery, anti-tank mines and planted explosives to destroy the statues. What is left are gaping holes in the cliff face. An emptiness now occupies the physical space where the statues once stood tall. And that emptiness is a powerful reminder of what was lost in a moment of sheer madness. Now, the Buddhas of Bamiyan mark the westernmost reach of Buddhism from its birthplace on the Indian subcontinent. In the east, Buddhism spread from ancient India to Thailand, Cambodia, and beyond. Today, much like how the Taliban militia destroyed the Buddhas of Bamiyan in Afghanistan, Thailand's army is accused of damaging Hindu temples and destroying statues of Hindu gods in neighboring Cambodia. If what the Taliban did to the Buddhas of Bamiyan was cultural vandalism, what will you call what Thailand has done to ancient Hindu temples in Cambodia? Hindu religious symbols have become collateral damage in the cross-border clashes between the armies of Thailand and Cambodia. Ancient Hindu monuments crumbling under the weight of modern weapons, erasing centuries of heritage and culture. Many such incidents have been reported. On 22nd December, a statue of Lord Vishnu, a revered Hindu deity symbolizing preservation and protection, was demolished in Cambodia's Prey Vihir province. Viral videos show a Thai backhoe loader smashing the 2014-built idol to rubble. Also targeted was the iconic Prey Vihir temple itself. It's an 11th century monument perched atop a cliff. It's dedicated to Lord Shiva, the destroyer and transformer in Hindu religion. This UNESCO site has suffered fresh damage. Reports from the National Authority for Prey Vihir document 47 shells impacting 125 locations across the complex. Then there is Prasar Bharati, also known as Star Krabe, an 11th century Shiva temple in the same border region. Cambodian authorities report substantial damage from Thai attacks, including collapsed walls and defaced carvings of Hindu motifs. Not far away, Prasar Bharati, another Khmer-era Hindu temple about 150 kilometers from Previhir, has seen flare-ups. Built in the 10th century, it is dedicated to Hindu deities and has been hit by cross-border fire, damaging its intricate bas-reliefs depicting scenes from two ancient Hindu epics, the Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now, Cambodia says what Thailand has done is immoral. A Cambodian government official condemns the destruction of ancient temples and statues that are worshipped by Buddhist and Hindu followers. The official maintains that the Lord Vishnu statue was inside Cambodian territory. Now, video clips released by Cambodia's Information Ministry purportedly show young students fleeing classrooms after the strikes. Cambodia accuses Thailand of striking deep inside its territory, bombing areas less than a 2-hour drive from the country's main tourist draw, the centuries-old Angkor Wat temple complex. Cambodia says Thai F-16s had penetrated more than 70 kilometers into its territory. But Thailand says it was simply reclaiming territory that Cambodia encroached upon by erecting illegal structures. It claims that the statue was not installed as a registered or officially recognized religious site. The said structure was not connected to any religion, but was merely a decorative piece at a location along the Thailand-Cambodia border, and that its removal was undertaken with the objective of affirming effective control of the area. Thailand goes on to express sincere regret for any discomfort that may have arisen from misunderstandings. But not all Thais share their government's view. Khao-Sod, an English-language news website based in Bangkok, published an opinion piece with the headline, "Is Thailand war drunk? Demolishing a giant Cambodian Hindu statue." It reads, "There was absolutely no necessity for Thai soldiers to destroy the Hindu giant deity statue that the Khmer built like that, to the point that the Indian government came out to criticize it as a display of disrespect towards religion." Perhaps the most significant diplomatic shift has come from India. For India, this is about shared civilizational heritage, especially because it has been very closely involved in the preservation of ancient monuments in both Thailand and Cambodia. New Delhi issued 2 statements in less than 2 weeks. On 12th December, the Ministry of External Affairs said the damage to conservation facilities at Previhir is unfortunate and is a matter of concern. On 24th December, it said that notwithstanding territorial claims, such disrespectful acts hurt the sentiments of followers around the world and should not take place. Going on to say that Hindu and Buddhist deities are deeply revered and worshipped by people across the region as part of our shared civilizational heritage. For centuries, the Hindu temples of the Dangreg Mountains stood as silent sentinels, symbols of a shared civilization. What Thailand has done to Hindu temples and monuments can be called an assault on cultural identity. Now, this, ironically, in a part of the world where Hinduism is intrinsically woven into the identity and culture of its people. Take the case of Thailand. Hindu gods Shiva and Vishnu are deeply integrated into Thai culture, despite Thailand being predominantly Buddhist. Garuda, the celestial vehicle for Lord Vishnu, is the national emblem of Thailand. A Thai version of the ancient Indian epic Ramayana is called Ramakin. Thai kings adopt the title Rama, an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Thailand's current king Maha Vajiralongkorn is known as Rama the 10th monarch of the Chakri dynasty. Now let's talk about Cambodia. The Angkor Wat in Cambodia, again predominantly Buddhist, was built as a Hindu temple dedicated to Lord Vishnu by King Suryavarman II. In Cambodia, the Sanskrit word Devaraja, meaning God King, was a religious and political concept established by Khmer King Jayavarman II, which depicts the Khmer monarch as an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Now, Thailand and Cambodia have since agreed to a ceasefire, ending weeks of deadly fighting. Will it hold? Only time will tell. Can Hindu religious symbols survive more fighting? Nobody knows for sure. India, for one, hopes that better sense will prevail. Algeria has taken the bold step of passing a bill that calls on France to apologize and pay reparations for more than a century of colonial rule. India, too, bears the scars of colonial rule. So, has the time come for the UK and other European countries to apologize to the global south and pay up? Aman Kumar Himanshu reports.
The pursuit of historical justice and financial restitution has become a central theme in the diplomatic relations between former colonies and their previous rulers. Across the global south, many countries are pressing for formal apologies and reparations, arguing that centuries of exploitation, violence and human rights abuses under colonial rule continue to have lasting consequences. Within this broader global context, Algeria has taken a significant step. On 24th December, Algeria's lower house of parliament passed a symbolic bill calling for formal apologies and full reparations from France for crimes committed during 130 years of French colonial rule. The bill covers the period from the landing of King Charles X's army on the beaches of Sidi Fresh, which was known as Sidi Farouche under French rule, in 1830 to the date of Algeria's official independence on 5th July 1962. It imposes prison sentences for celebrating French colonialism, attacking symbols of Algerian resistance, or making statements that glorify the colonial era.
Regarding the law criminalizing colonization, we will demand reparations in the future for the resources that were looted and plundered from Algeria. We have the political will to condemn French colonization for the indescribable crimes it committed against the Algerian people during the French occupation of Algeria, and to tell France and the French state to bear the responsibility for the crimes committed by colonial France against the Algerian people.
At the heart of Algeria's demands lies a call for comprehensive historical accountability. Algiers is demanding a formal apology from France for the violence, massacres, torture, and systematic oppression during the colonial era. It is also seeking reparations and restitution for resource extraction, looted cultural artifacts, and the lasting environmental and human damage caused by French nuclear tests in the Sahara. Beyond compensation, Algeria wants France to acknowledge legal responsibility for colonial-era crimes, particularly during the War of Independence between 1954 and 1962, in which 1.5 million Algerians were killed. Algerian Parliament Speaker Ibrahim Boughali said that the legislation sent a clear message, both internally and externally, that Algeria's national memory is neither erasable nor negotiable. Analysts say that the Algerian bill carries no weight, so it is largely declaratory in nature, but its political impact is significant. It underscores Algeria's insistence that historical accountability remains central to its relationship with France. Paris slammed Algeria for a hostile act that threatens bilateral efforts to heal wounds of the past. In 2017, French President Emmanuel Macron had described elements of France's history in Algeria as a crime against humanity, but stopped short of an official apology. But today, the resurgent far right in France celebrates colonialists. Similarly, in August 2025, President Macron admitted French repression in Cameroon's independence struggle. But he fell short of offering a clear apology for the atrocities committed by French troops in its former colony, which gained independence in 1960. Algeria took action just a few weeks after African countries made a collective resolution for recognition and reparations for colonial-era crimes. The economic cost of colonialism in Africa is believed to be staggering. Algeria suffered some of the most brutal forms of French colonial rule. Nearly 1 million European settlers held greater political, economic, and social privileges, even though Algeria was legally part of France and its men were conscripted in the Second World War. Hundreds of thousands died in Algeria's revolution, during which French forces tortured detainees, disappeared suspects, and devastated villages as part of a counter-insurgency strategy to maintain their grip on power. The debate over colonial reparations is not limited to Africa. India, a former British colony, bears deep and lasting scars from European rule. British colonialism in India was not merely a political occupation, it was an extractive economic project that systematically drained wealth, dismantled indigenous industries, and entrenched poverty. Indian parliamentarian Shashi Tharoor is a prominent voice articulating this argument on the world stage. He has repeatedly said that Britain's industrial prosperity was built in large part on resources and revenues extracted from India. In 2015, Tharoor delivered a speech at the Oxford Union Society. The Oxford Union Society is a debating society in the city of Oxford, England. The topic was, "This House believes that Britain should pay reparations to its former colonies." Tharoor spoke about how colonial powers exploited and ruined India. He argued that Britain's rise for 200 years was financed by its depredations in India.
India's share of the world economy when Britain arrived on its shores was 23%. By the time the British left, it was down to below 4%. Why? Simply because India had been governed for the benefit of Britain. Britain's rise for 200 years was financed by its depredations in India.
Tharoor said that reparations should not be seen as a means to empower anyone, but as a way for Britain to atone for the wrongs of the past. He cited several examples from history: Germany's reparations to Israel and Poland, Italy's payments to Libya, Japan's compensation to Korea, and even Britain's reparations to the Maori people of New Zealand. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi praised Tharoor's speech.
इस बार हमारे शशि जी वहाँ थे और ऑक्सफोर्ड डिबेट में जो बोला है इन दिनों यूट्यूब पर बड़ा वायरल हुआ है, उसमें एक भारत के नागरिक की जो भाव है ना, उसकी अभिव्यक्ति की ताकत बहुत है, उसके कारण लोगों का भाव उसमें जुड़ा हुआ है.
British lawmaker Bob Blackman has been calling on his government to issue a formal apology to India for the 1919 Jallianwala Bagh massacre. 2,000 Indians were killed or wounded after they were shot indiscriminately by the British under the command of General Michael O'Dwyer on 13th April 1919 while participating in a peaceful public meeting. This was one of the major incidents of India's freedom struggle. Today, the site houses the Jallianwala Bagh Memorial. A section of wall with bullet marks still visible is preserved along with the memorial well in which some people jumped to escape. An eternal flame symbolizing the tragedy and India's freedom struggle attracts many visitors daily. To date, no British Prime Minister has issued a formal apology for the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. In 2019, 3 days before India marked 100 years since the killing, the then British Prime Minister Theresa May expressed deep regret for the massacre but stopped short of apologizing for the slaughter. The issue of reparations came to the fore at the most recent Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa. Attended by King Charles III, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and leaders from 56 other nations, the summit saw former British colonies deliver a direct message that the legacy of the transatlantic slave trade and colonial exploitation must be addressed. In a significant moment of acknowledgement, King Charles described the history of the British Empire's role in slavery as painful. He said that while the past cannot be changed, the Commonwealth must commit to finding creative ways to right the inequalities that endure. But the UK government entered the summit with a clear intention to avoid the topic of financial restitution. Prime Minister Starmer rejected calls for an apology and monetary reparations, urging delegates to focus on modern challenges such as climate change rather than endless discussions about the past. In contrast, leaders from across the Commonwealth, particularly from the Caribbean, pushed strongly for a formal acknowledgement and financial redress. Unlike Britain, the Netherlands, Belgium and Germany have publicly apologized for their colonial era atrocities and involvement in the slave trade. In 2023, the King of the Netherlands has formally apologized for his country's role in the slave trade. It followed an official apology by Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte in December 2022. In December 2025, the King formally apologized for the Netherlands' role in slavery during the first state visit to the former colony of Suriname in 47 years. In 2019, Belgium's then Prime Minister Charles Michel apologized for the kidnapping of thousands of children born to mixed-race couples during colonial rule in Burundi, DR Congo and Rwanda. In 2022, Belgium's Prime Minister Alexander De Croo officially apologized for the death of Congolese leader Patrice Lumumba, who was assassinated in 1961. In 2021, Germany apologized to Namibia for its colonial-era massacres. Germany's mass killings of Nigeria's indigenous Herero and Nama people in the early 1900s has been referred to by many historians as the first genocide of the 20th century. In November 2023, Germany's President Frank-Walter Steinmeier apologized for colonial-era killings in Tanzania. From Algeria to India, the push for reparations and restitution reflects a growing insistence that former empires must confront their past, not as a symbolic gesture alone, but as a necessary step towards justice, historical accountability, and lasting reconciliation. Aman Kumar Himanshu for DD India.
A lot is at stake in the 29 December meeting of the leaders of Israel and the US. It is likely to determine the future of Gaza. On the agenda are a host of items including ceasefire, reconstruction and an international stabilization force. Aman Kumar Himanshu delves into the optics and outcomes of the Trump-Netanyahu talks.
After more than 2 years of relentless conflict that has left thousands dead and millions displaced, West Asia is once again in the global spotlight. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's 29th December meeting with US President Donald Trump in the US state of Florida is their 6th meeting and the 5th time they are meeting in the US this year. The start of the second phase of a US-sponsored ceasefire plan for Gaza is a focus of their talks.
We discuss, of course, how to bring an end to the Hamas rule in Gaza, because that's an essential part of ensuring a different future for Gaza and a different future for us facing Gaza. We finished the first part, as you know, phase 1. We're almost there. We have one more hostage deceased, Hani Gvili, a hero of Israel, to return here. And then we very shortly expect to move into the second phase, which is more difficult.
It has been 2 months since Trump and other world leaders signed his 20-point plan for Gaza, and 1 month since the plan was endorsed by the UN Security Council resolution. Phase 1 may not have gone completely as expected, but it still led to the release of all living hostages, a ceasefire, a surge in humanitarian assistance, the release of Palestinian prisoners, and Israeli military withdrawals from large parts of Gaza. Phase 2 of the plan outlines post-war security and governance arrangements, from disarming the Hamas and destroying the rest of its tunnel networks to securing further Israeli withdrawals and reconstruction. The problem is the sequence, according to an opinion piece published by the Jerusalem Post. The Americans want to start with reconstruction. The mediating states, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey, demand IDF withdrawals in parallel. Israel's supreme interest is to oppose both of these before Hamas is disarmed. Tali Gwili, the mother of Ran Gwili, the last fallen hostage, joins Netanyahu on his US visit. So Israel may not move to the next stage of the Gaza plan with Hamas until her son is returned. For its part, a Hamas representative says that the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire must come with clear guarantees and specific commitments. Also, on the agenda of the Trump-Netanyahu talks is the setting up of an international stabilization force for Gaza. The US has had trouble putting such a force together. It wants Turkey to be a part of it, but it is a major point of disagreement with Israel. Israel has approved plans for 19 new Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank, a move that is drawing sharp criticism around the world. The decision is a part of a wider push by the Israeli government to expand construction in the occupied territories. Critics say that the steps will further undermine the chances of a future Palestinian state. The reaction was swift. 14 countries issued a joint statement on 24 December condemning Israel's decision. They warned that building new settlements in the occupied West Bank violates international law and risks further inflaming tensions in an already fragile region. According to the Times of Israel newspaper, the US is keen to officially announce the creation of the Board of Peace, an international body responsible for Gaza's administration. Chaired by Trump, the body will establish an interim executive committee to appoint Palestinian technocrats to manage the territory. Iran is another outstanding issue on the table. Recently, Iran conducted missile tests. Israel is laser focused on Iran's ballistic missile program and sees it as the most urgent existential threat. That concern has grown after US and Israeli strikes hit Iran's nuclear infrastructure during a 12-day aerial campaign in June. During that conflict, Iran's ballistic missiles penetrated Israel's advanced air defense system. Israel believes that if Iran is given enough time, it could strengthen its missile and nuclear programs, which would pose a major threat to regional security. The latest Netanyahu-Trump meeting comes close on the heels of two back-to-back visits to the US by leaders of Syria and Saudi Arabia. Syria's new leader, Ahmad al-Shara, whom Israel still views with abundant suspicion, had a very friendly visit last month. Trump has already chided Israel over its move in Syria. Soon after Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman made a triumphant return to the White House to take his place as the leader most aligned with Trump's focus on de-escalation, diplomacy, trade and investment, winning concessions that were previously thought to be tied to Saudi Arabia, agreeing to normalize its relations with Israel. Aman Kumar Himanshu for DD India.
And with that, it's a wrap. Wish you all a very happy New Year. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.